Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully you all have had a fantastic day so far. Plenty of volatility, plenty of movement going on. All kinds of fun stuff going on. Hopefully you've had a good day. Looking at the way things are moving so far, looking at the NASDAQ, kind of kicking things off with a gigantic V bottom off of the lows, which very quickly reversed all the way back up. What an incredible reversal back up again. Nuts. Huge V bottom into the lows with gigantic volume. Obviously, it's coming into the open, but huge volume just ate it alive. So buyers gobbled it up like crazy, shot it back up to the high. Oh, and that's kind of where it stands now, right? We've got that rising support coming across here. Maybe some falling resistance, I guess. It's kind of gross over there, but this whole high, I mean, everything up here is kind of a zone of resistance, all of this. So, I mean, this is definitely kind of a funky area for the for the NASDAQ rather, and for the S&P. For the S&P, if we take a look at that one, man, I tell you, the S&P today, dead slow. Very, very, just incredibly slow morning after the open. The morning jumped around for a little bit and then just died. There's not been a whole lot going on. So, I mean, realistically, where it is now, we've got some pretty good momentum to the upside. Buyers are showing good movement to the upside. We've got potential for a nice channel. Everything lines up really nicely. Well, I guess we could potentially maybe kind of sort of look at it a wedge on the highs. It's iffy. It's iffy, but sure. See what traders want to do going into the end of the day here. Bulls trying to get a pushback higher on the S&P. Seeing a bit of volume coming in up here. Kind of looks like sellers are trying to pressure back against this move higher. I mean, this leg up is strong enough to have buyers follow through, but you can definitely see there's a bit of trouble here. The majority of the volume was traded at 36.68 though. Waiting to see if the buyers want to take it further up or what they want to do here. Trying to hold that higher low. NASDAQ's kind of a mess inside here. See if we can get a bit more continuation to the upside from the S&P. Buyers closing out a really nice bull bar. It's closing on its highs, big increase in volume. I mean, again, it just feels like they're running into a little bit of a wall up here, but we're not seeing it in the volume. Buyers may still have a little bit of room to go. 66.75 up to like 67.75. There's just not a ton of room. NASDAQ setting up for a potential short-term long around this area, trying to gear up for buyers continuation. I like the idea of a potential long. Just got to see a bit more from the buyers. They're just kind of pinned underneath the moving average. There's not really a ton going on yet. Just seems like sellers are still trying to hold the market down. S&P's not finding anybody. Again, it feels like they're running into a brick wall. We didn't see it in the volume. I don't know how to explain it, but man, there's something going on up there. Now, there's still 3 minutes left on the candle, so it could very easily go back up again, but honestly, if the buyers lose their grip here and they see a slightly more excessive slide to the downside, we might not find buyers for a while. Bulls aren't showing up to the party. Jeez. That S&P 5-minute bar, that's looking pretty yikes right now. Bulls might be looking to pick up this little kickback here, but that's a lot of weakness on the highs. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the V bottom at the lows there on the indexes, but looks like it's getting real top heavy up here. It's got that 3 press top. Almost looks like the market's back into the earlier channel that they had right there. Kind of snapped outside of it, and now we're back in it again. Hey, JT, how's it going? Man, hopefully you're awake. This is getting rough. This is slow today. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, all things considered, it's been a great trading day. I mean, the setups have been nice and clean, but God, man, it feels like where's the port to put in the caffeine for the markets, man? Jeez. Oh well. I'll take my own caffeine. I'll try to make up for it. Really weak on the pullback so far. Not really seeing a whole lot of action. Has the profile changed at all? Okay. Starting to see more volume stepping up in the 65s. We got that resistance zone. I mean, talk about a chunk of volume up there, huh? 36.68 is just a brick wall of volume. And if we zoom back just a little bit further to encompass that rally higher, we can see, I mean, the majority of the volume is pretty top weighted, 36.65 quarter. So sellers are trying to put a top on this, on the S&P. I mean, keep in mind, I say sellers. It could be buyers taking profit too. Don't let that, fool you. But either way, a sell order is a sell order, and we're starting to see a lot of that potential profit taking coming off around these 65s. A lot more up here at the 68s. This whole zone up there. If we go back further to get the entire thing up, yeah, I mean 61 quarter. We haven't seen a shift yet. Buyers still likely to have a bit more to go. Ugh, these highs look kind of gross, though, huh? Yeah, well, we'll see how that wants to work out. Bulls trying to come back in again. I really like this ramp back to the upside for the NASDAQ. The big thing with the NASDAQ here is that this is another major invalidation from the sellers. Look at all those wicks on the bottom. Tries to move down, fails, goes up. Tries to move down, fails, goes up. Tries to move down. I mean, you can see it over and over and over again. So, I mean, realistically, if the buyers are going to take it, they've got a reason to do it. But I don't really see that reason until like 42. And if it's going to crack down, then I don't really want it if it starts breaking below those wicks again. I'm looking for it to be a relatively clean hit. Objective would be 2-1, but realistically, I mean, it's the NASDAQ and we're getting towards the end of the day, so this is when you start seeing those 5-1, 6-1, 8-1 crazy runners. Obviously, with a stop this small going into the end of the day, the probability is not very good, but the reward potential is very high. So, where can I find the time clock you have for the candles on Tradeovate? Can I get an app? Are you talking about like the countdown timer next to the candle? I don't know if Tradeovate has something like that. With NinjaTrader, the bar timer that comes with NinjaTrader is absolute garbage. So I mean, it's definitely a good idea to go and download like a third-party timer app. But as to why Ninja didn't decide to put the bar timer next to the bar, it's just baffling to me. But, you know, whatever. So a lot of times you can go to like futures.io. The NinjaTrader forums, you can sometimes find them there. I mean, there's a lot of NinjaTrader indicator warehouse stuff that will try to sell them to you, but there's free alternatives too. It's not necessary to pay for it if you don't have to. I'm cheap, what can I say? Now that said, Tradeovate, I don't remember, does Tradeovate have an easy to program language? Or am I thinking of TradingView? I might be thinking of TradingView. I don't remember. One of them has a really easy to understand programming language that might be pretty easy to make when you're yourself, if you're savvier in that department. But I don't remember if that's Tradeovate or... yeah, futures.io is the website. It's a blog that does, I mean, they've got a bajillion different things on there, but it's futures.io. That's the link for it. Well, I didn't get that dip far enough down to 42. What did it make it down to? Like 43? I think it got about a point away, and... It missed me, and now it's gone all the way back up to where a 2-1 target would have been. So, all right, well, I'm gonna dodge that one, I guess. Or, well, actually, let me rephrase that. The market dodged me on that one. Yeah, no problem. I found just about every indicator I want on NinjaTrader for free. There's a couple I'm still looking for, though. Yeah, for sure. I mean, out of all of the charting platforms, it's hard to beat NinjaTrader's charting platform. You know, they did really well with that. But I don't know. I feel like it could use some good competition. You know, something needs to step up to the plate and. Step up to the plate and kind of give them a run for their money, you know. And the NASDAQ did dip down real quick again, but they still didn't hit that 42. All right, 345, 346, Only got a few minutes left until we get up into 350. The final 10 minutes, that's when things go a little bit crazy. Very common trading explanations. Watched you a few times. Yeah, I mean, if that's one thing that you have to kind of get used to. After we kind of jokingly kind of say, you know, after a while of being slapped in the face from the markets over and over and over again, you kind of get used to it. You start to laugh about it, you know. Don't get me wrong, we all have our days. There are some days where it gets under your skin, but I mean, for the most part, it's just the market being the market. Any plans on sizing up? You're comfortable with your current P&L consistency? As far as the sizing and everything goes, for me, sizing up or sizing down, I really don't care so much about. I find that a lot of the this is going to be a brutally honest answer, I guess, but a lot of the attention that you get when you do the sizing up and all of that is, oh, how much P&L did you make? How much P&L did you make? Hey, how much money? Hey, you know, let's buy that Lambo next week. I just don't like that crowd. You know what I mean? I'm much more about the long-term consistency. And in order to be able to maintain a level head and look at chat and answer questions and all of that, trading more than a few at a time just becomes cumbersome mentally. So from kind of a teaching perspective, it's just much more mentally easier to trade smaller size or trade micros, etc. But I mean, there's a lot of that crowd, especially with Bitcoin hitting all-time highs. It's the HODL, BTFD, whatever crowd that's you know, looking to buy the Lambo next week and then probably be looking for work the week after that. But, you know, it's just kind of how it goes. You live and learn. I think everybody goes through that phase. Because the markets can give you really easy cash. You know, there are some times where, I mean, you look at the trading day, you're like, I didn't deserve that. You know, but that's just the way the market goes. It doesn't matter. It can get to your head if you let it. And then all of that money disappears. Market loves taking it back, too. Is this thing awake? Are we going to move? We've got 2 minutes until, well, a minute and 10 seconds until we hit the last little bit here. This thing's dead slow. I tried grabbing that dip on the NASDAQ and they gave another dip, but they're just not filling it. Maybe they want to wait until that 350 area. Scalpers might have some, I mean, obviously there's rejection down here. So if it starts pushing down here, the 350s, time-wise, 350 Eastern time, it dips down into here again. It wouldn't be a surprise to see scalpers at least rejecting it out of 3650. But scalpers are assumed to have wider stops too, right? They're buying here, looking for here, but their stops are down here. They're trading probabilities. Those are the insurance companies. Just clipped new all-time highs in the NASDAQ going higher into 2021 or pull back. Do you have a macro view? Yeah. I mean, when it comes to the bigger picture versus the smaller, I mean, the NASDAQ is in such a funky tipping point right now. Like zooming way, way out on the 15-minute chart, obviously this whole zone is just a mess. But the big zone of interest going into today, that was, I mean, it was right there. 12, 364, 37. I mean, I say it's right there. Don't get me wrong. I definitely didn't hold on through all of that. That flushed way further than I thought it was going to. But I mean, it did end up holding in the end, hindsight 2020. So it wouldn't be a surprise at all with that kind of V bottom and that kind of structuring. If we start seeing buyers cracking above these short-term highs of this rising resistance, then I don't see a reason in the world why they couldn't take it further up. But they've got to get through this crap first. All of this stuff it's all in the way. And there's a lot of it too. I mean, look at all those failures up here. and scalping between 42 and 48. Yes, that's about it. Just keep pinging it back and forth. A Ninja go-to indicator bar timer. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about the bar timer for NinjaTrader, and the one thing that just blows my mind, is that there's no way to set it next to the candle, right? I mean, you can load it on, but then the problem is it's like down here in the corner. Well, if I'm watching to see a strong bull close at 9:32 and the market's screaming, I sometimes won't have time to move my eyes from the clock down to here and then back again. You know, there are times where it doesn't work. That's why I also have this floating clock. It's just the freealarmclock.net or whatever it is. I don't know. Just search free alarm clock. They have a floating widget, those little windows. So if I'm using a different charting platform, or if Ninja's not working, I can park that right next to it. I can say, okay, I know exactly what time it is, you know, because, well, sometimes charting platforms don't offer it either. But all right, last couple minutes here. Tried grabbing that dip on the NASDAQ. I was trying to buy it at 42, but it went down to 43. I think the lowest is 42.50, but I wasn't around then anymore. Oh, well. S&P just kind of grinding its way higher. Might have a relatively uneventful afternoon. See what the last 5 minutes bring. On the S&P, this most recent candle is basically the entire range. I mean, that's not great. That's pretty brutal. Just attempted to break above the highs, and that break above the highs was a failure. That's a really big sign, because usually when one side fails, the other side's the objective. And now this candle is going bear engulfing to the downside. The bigger picture on the S&P, obviously, if we zoom out, we're right around that previous structure. I wish it was just a little bit further up. If it was in the 75s, I'd be a lot more interested. It's okay here in the 68s, 69s, but it would just look so much better up in the 74s. Maybe they get a pop up there at the end of the day. Sellers are definitely trying to push some strength into here, though. All right, well, if buyers are still hanging around at 42 on the NASDAQ, they finally got that dip back to fill. I'm not hanging around for it anymore, which, of course, means that it would have worked, right? That basically means it's going to 15,000. But that 42 area is still a zone of interest. I want to see if we can get a little bit of a volatility push one way or the other here, but it's just not going either way. Once the NASDAQ starts hitting into the final few minutes, that's when scalping opportunities become very nice, but and it's a big one. It can also be extraordinarily dangerous. The NASDAQ in any market at the end of the day can be absolutely insane. So just be careful going into these final few minutes. Big failure wick on the top for the NASDAQ off of the 60s. S&P's just a giant range still. Big chunk of volume came in as well on that most recent candle on the S&P. If we look at the overall volume profile, yikes, the majority of that volume came in down there. Back at 65 again. Lots of volume up there at 68, but you can see what they're bouncing between 68, 64, 65, 68, 65, just back and forth. See if they can fade underneath this. Next big volume pocket from that rise higher. Ugh, yeah, that's not a very big volume pocket. 61.50. It's got, I guess, a little bit. Everybody else is hanging down at the 56 quarters. 4 minutes. Nice bear bar trying to get going on the S&P. The NASDAQ might also be gearing up for a possible scalp flush to the downside. This candle's just so gross. Let's even get a little bit of a whip one way or the other. There will be buyers on the S&P from 62 quarter, basically all the way down. There's going to be buyers the whole way down. It's just one giant wide open door. The majority of those stops will be below the lows. If the market just flushes through there, then we'll probably see a pretty nice bounce off the 55s, 54.75 in that area. It's just a big, nasty range in here, isn't it? Ugh. And it's right in the middle, too, out of everywhere. Yeah, not so much the case for the S&P. I mean, really, the range low's there. That makes way more sense. All right, coming into 58. Once we hit 358, those are the final end of day orders. That's the cutoff, and that's when things get really interesting. Sometimes. Hopefully today, I don't know, man. Today's been a sleeper. I would love to see a quick pop to the downside towards like the 25s if it wants to jump for scalpers to buy it back up on the NASDAQ. For the S&P, that looks a little more bearish. 358 hits and not an ounce of movement on it. Man, I might have a no trade afternoon. They missed me on that dip back there at 42. Buyers trying to kick it back up again. Yeah, what a snoozer, man. It's all day, though, you know? There's like those small little pops in volume, but the whole day is just kind of a sleeper. It makes me hopeful for tomorrow, you know? Like, maybe tomorrow, that's when everybody's waking up. See if we can get some final minute volatility on the NASDAQ. Probably not so much on the S&P, but the NASDAQ, if they can get a quick flush underneath the 45, scalpers will likely be looking to jump in for a quick pop. It's really hard to see like that, isn't it? Man, not even in the final like 30 seconds, just nothing, huh? Dead until the end. It'll get a little slower towards the holidays, right? Probably, yeah. But this time around, just like Thanksgiving, it might be a little bit weird because everybody's home, you know? It's such a weird situation this time around. We'll have to play a lot of it by ear. Just see when the volume's trading and trade then, and when it's not, stay away. Probably a pretty touch and go December, but we'll have to just kind of play it by ear. It's kind of what I'm planning on doing. All right, well, I'm not seeing anything else. I tried grabbing the dip. The only setup that I was trying to grab today was that dip at 42 was up here, but it didn't quite get me, and it already moved up to a ×2 versus the risk. I didn't want to hang around and try to fill it. If I did, it would have come back and fill it, of course, but that was it. So that's going to do it. Kind of a snoozer, but hopefully tomorrow we get a little bit more volatility. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you had a great day of trading, and we will see you all back tomorrow, right? Have a good one. We'll talk to you all later. Thanks.